I was kidnapped by my father's enemy. They demanded a ransom of $10 million. To my shock, my father wasn't even willing to pay $1,000 for me. He told them to just keep me as a wife instead. If your father doesn't pay up, you know what will happen to you, right? The kidnapper threatened to throw me into the sea. My teeth chattered as I replied, I know. A year later, my father finally called. The man yelled at him, forget the money, just take her back. I'm not your babysitter. He hung up the phone, chewing on a cigarette as he angrily scrubbed my little stuffed animal in a rundown apartment. The man wore a black cap pulled low, his muscular arms covered in tattoos. Remember what to say? He asked. Yes, I nodded. My life hung by a thread. The call connected. I have your daughter Olivia. Dad. Click. As soon as he heard my name, he hung up. The man called again. I don't have money, just take the girl. The next call, my dad's phone was turned off. Everyone in the room stared at me. Boss, what do we do now? They all looked to him. I later learned his name was Ethan Cole. Ethan looked at me, put out a cigarette, and said in a hoarse voice, throw her in the sea. In the end, I was thrown into a swimming pool instead. There was no sea anywhere near this remote area. Half an hour later, I climbed out soaking wet and returned to my original spot, sitting quietly as I awaited my fate. They were playing cards. Ethan glanced at me, casually tossing down a card, but otherwise ignoring me. The others started discussing me. Boss, she's from the city. Won't she catch a cold being all wet like that? Yeah, city folk go to the hospital over a paper cut. I sat nervously, barely daring to breathe. You seem so concerned. Want to take her as your wife? Ethan snapped. Boss, I thought you came here for money, not to pick up girls. He shot the group an annoyed look. They all fell silent. He turned back to me. Why are you just standing there? Oh. I stood up uncertainly, moving to a nearby stool. Go take a shower. There's no hospital here if you get sick. He got up and lit a cigarette as he walked out, grumbling, so high maintenance. Bathroom's on the left. Don't you dare wear my clothes. I replied meekly, okay. He was so fierce. I cried as I showered, but not because my father abandoned me. I cried because I somehow managed to learn how to swim in just 30 minutes. My name is Olivia Young. My father is a wealthy businessman who's been married over a dozen times. There are 20 children in the family, and I'm the dumbest one. He never believed he could have produced such a slow, underdeveloped child until one day, he laughed as he looked at my paternity test results. I knew I couldn't have such a stupid kid, but as he kept laughing, his face started turning green. After that, I was cast aside. My allowance disappeared. I lost my private room and was moved to the basement. Every day I got up early to cook, clean, and do laundry for the whole family. I asked my grandmother, why doesn't dad like me? She glared at me. Go ask your mother. I shook my head. Grandma's dementia was acting up again. My mom had been dead for 10 years. From then on, I was careful with my words and actions, working hard without complaint, afraid of upsetting my father. I thought that would be my life forever. But then I was kidnapped. My peaceful existence was suddenly shattered. After showering, I had no clothes to wear. I searched the closet and found a t-shirt. I couldn't find any suitable pants. Hearing voices outside, I didn't dare linger too long. I had no choice but to go out. When I walked out, everyone immediately stopped horsing around and stared at me, or rather, at my legs. Ethan stared too, frowning as he abruptly stood up. What are you looking at? Never seen a woman before, he yelled at the others. Boss. We weren't looking. Get out. The group grumbled as they left the mahjong game and filed out. You, get back inside. Ethan glared at me. Okay. I didn't dare argue. Turning to run back to the room, I heard his footsteps behind me and frantically closed the door. Bam. He kicked it open. Dressed like that? He looked me up and down again. Kids these days. I'm sorry. I don't have any clothes. I explained shakily, not daring to move as he blocked the doorway. If you don't have pants, don't go out with bare legs. He leaned against the doorframe, staring at me. You know those guys out there are all wolves, right? They'd eat you alive if they could. I didn't know. Well, I'm telling you now. They're all single guys who haven't touched a woman in months or even years. I'll admit, that scared me. A tear slipped out before I could wipe it away. Why are you crying? Now you're scared? I bit my lip, holding back tears. For crying out loud, he chewed on his cigarette as he rummaged through the closet, finally pulling out a pair of athletic shorts and tossing them at my head. Put these on. And stop crying, or I really will throw you to the dogs. Got it? Got it. I quickly started putting on the shorts. In the bathroom, he stared at me inside. I'm a man, and a bad one at that. Do you even know what you're doing? Okay. I ran to the bathroom with the shorts. He really was fierce, even more than my father. I didn't dare defy him. When I came out in the shorts, the room was emptied. I saw him at the door getting takeout as I walked out. He had only ordered one portion. I sat next to him, watching as he opened a container of twice-cooked pork fried rice. My mouth started watering. He glanced up at me. Want some? I nodded honestly. Too bad. He tossed down his chopsticks. I fell silent. Even if he wouldn't give me any, I couldn't just take it. I definitely couldn't overpower him. Do you know how much your father owes me? $10 million. So you do know. He laughed bitterly. And you still want to eat my food? What, you want to add another $30 to that debt? I hadn't eaten in a day. All I could think about was the twice-cooked pork. Is that okay? I looked at him pleadingly. In your dreams, he dragged out the words. Don't think acting all pitiful will make me soft. That doesn't work on me. Okay. I swallowed hard and sat quietly beside him, not daring to make a sound. He opened the takeout container and poked around with his chopsticks before cursing. Tastes like crap. Then he grabbed his cigarettes and lighter and went out to the balcony. I watched silently as he smoked cigarette after cigarette, tilting his head back. My stomach growled loudly, but he still hadn't come back inside. I looked at the pork, then at my stomach. When he wasn't looking, I quickly grabbed a piece of meat with my hand and stuffed it in my mouth. He turned back just as I did it. My heart stopped and I froze, not daring to chew, but he just glanced at me before pulling out his phone to make a call, turning his back as he talked. I finally breathed a sigh of relief, hunger won out over fear, and I kept sneaking bites of meat. By the time he finished his call and walked back over, I realized I had eaten all the meat, leaving just rice. Where's the meat? He squinted at me. I don't know. You don't know? He stared me down, suddenly raising his hand. I thought he was going to hit me. I wanted to move but was too scared, but his finger stopped at my lips, brushing away a grain of rice and holding it up. Busted. Ate the rice too. Now, how are you going to pay back your father's debt? He leaned back, regarding me coolly. Can't you make him pay? He skipped town. Then, I'll pay it back? You? How exactly? You really think a scrawny little thing like you is worth $10 million? You. I felt insulted but didn't dare get angry. Finish eating and get out. Don't bother me anymore. He stood up and stormed out, slamming the door. Of course I wanted to leave. Only an idiot would stay after being told to go. I quickly finished the rice and ran out as fast as I could, but half an hour later, I was back at the apartment, bedraggled and defeated.